Hello, everybody. Welcome to the IC Topic Chat today for February 8th, 2024. This is a firm topic, meaning it's kind of geared towards people thinking about or growing or reflecting on their consulting firm. And I define an independent consulting firm as a firm of, two people or more, or perhaps you're one and you want to create one. You want to get to that place or that point. And what does it all take? Certainly costs are very important to think about before you start doing this. I think I reflect back in 2019 when my coworker Tom came to work for me, and it was perhaps scarier for me to hire him as my first or my second employee after myself than it was to actually start my independent consulting practice. And the reason for that was, for me anyway, starting an independent consulting practice, I knew I could always fall back on my skills. If I did something wrong and or lost all my contracts, I didn't worry too much about it because I trust in my own abilities. But when you bring somebody else on and they're a full-time employee, and that's what we're talking about today. We're not talking about subcontractors necessarily. We're talking about bringing in a staff member to build out a firm. That was super scary because I feel a real commitment to the folks who work for Goshen Consulting, and it's probably not. I probably shouldn't go there, but the reality is, I feel for their families. I think I feel responsible for them, and so they are trusting. They trust their employment to me, and it was really scary, and it's been super rewarding. And I would do it all over again, even though you're going to find out how I made mistakes along the way. So the key thing that I want you guys to know about, when I first started thinking about a firm, I would go to AEA and I'd go to the firm sessions where frequently Gomani and others would be up there talking about what it's like to run a firm. I think Taj has been up there. I think I saw her today. A couple of you, a lot of folks would be up there, and the big up on the stage. I can see it perfectly. And frequently the number that was thrown out, and it was like every single time I went to the session, I heard the same thing: $150,000. What does that mean? $150,000 is, particularly Dick Heasel, when he used to own Heasel and Associates, would say, I can't hire another staff person until I get $150,000. And I went, what do you need $150,000 for? They don't cost that much. And that's what kind of the premise of this conversation is today. What you're looking at here is cited from the presentation I gave back in September about costs from the survey of the 2022 survey that the ICTIG completed. And I looked at the individuals the firms that had 2 or more employees, and the individual indicated they were full-time. There were 24 of those folks who responded to the survey, and their gross revenue, I took their gross revenue and divided by their number of employees. What this tells me is the median is actually pretty close to Dick Heasel's number he kept throwing out as 150,000. 142,625 is the median. So you can see between those two, the 25th and the 75th percentile, you should probably have that much more revenue over and above what you already have for yourself before you hire another person. Anyway, this is kind of like the beginning, and this is also the end of the conversation, because I remember thinking, that is crazy, Dick. I live in Southern Illinois. How much does it cost to hire a person? Well, his numbers seem to be correct anyway. So obviously the place we're going to start is with direct compensation. We're talking about salary and bonuses. When you're thinking about the salary, you want to probably base your salary on area norms. If there's a salary survey, you want to try and find that. I operate like a university. I say to everybody, I operate like I'm a university center or an institute, as if I was there. So what are they paying? What is it? And those are usually pretty easy to find. If you know how to do any lookups through this public lookups. So what are those university staff getting paid? You've got probably a whole other conversation. Just about everything I say today could be an entirely different conversation, an entirely different topic chat. But you need to think about employee growth So where are you bringing them in? What's their skill set? What are you paying them for? There's a whole lot to think about there. But we have built a system where people would come in. If you're coming in right out of grad school, you come in as a research assistant, paid a pretty decent salary, I think, not nearly as high as they perhaps other folks, but that's where we come into the next phase. They can grow into research associate, researcher, senior researcher, and that's where all of our staff currently are. We have a process where they could become managing researchers, senior managing researcher, and hypothetically a principal. And a principal is for us effectively like a partner at a law firm or something like that. They would have internally their own consulting firm, a bit like my partner and I do right now. We kind of have our own little subsets of our consulting firm. You want to be thinking about bonuses. Those bonuses, how do you do it? Well, hypothetically, if you're doing this right, you'll have profit. And if you're taking it all, I mean, at some point, it's going to look like you're being a little bit greedy. And I worry a lot about greed, but you should take profit. But at a certain point, you should also share some of that back. If you're being careful with your salary compensation, you can give something back. And we've continued to try and grow this pot as much as we can. We have an entire bonus schedule that is based upon a whole bunch of internal variables that I won't go into today. But if you consider a slightly lower salary, you could probably create teamwork around profitability. That could be bonuses, and people love bonuses. They're very happy when they get bonuses. Other direct compensation. We have a process internally, and this happened when one of my staff members said, I'd like to present to this group and they want to pay me. What do I get? How does this work? And I had already thought about this ahead of time a little bit. I give half of the revenue from that to my staff member as a bonus, and the other half I put directly in the PD fund. I don't take it as into the company, and that's for a good reason. It's basically indirectly it's coming to the company because that company doesn't have to pay for professional development, but it creates community around professional development. Similar to that, we've never had this situation, but I'd love to get there. How do we deal with intellectual property? We'd like to create software that is reproducible for very little input costs after you kind of create it. And so that could be an extremely lucrative piece. And I want to encourage my staff to do that because it would not only benefit them, but it would benefit all of us the way I've set it up. So the plan is when this happens, hopefully a third of that revenue will go to the employee, a third will go to the PD fund to encourage professional development. Everybody's happy about professional development. And a third does come back to the company because we took the risk to go after it. Key to all of these is they're using company time and company resources to do it. I can't believe I forgot one of the big expenses that I didn't put in here is all the government taxes, but I think you kind of know about those. Those are technically listed in fringe benefits, but taxes would include Social Security. They're going to include unemployment, both federal and state. And so those are expenses that you have to consider ahead of time and understand what they are. Our fringe cost benefit, our fringe percentage, I just calculated it yesterday because I needed it for a proposal. It's 23.2%, which I think is pretty decent, honestly. If you look at universities, they're definitely in the 30 plus range. And so we are competitive there. And I think we're doing pretty well with providing these fringe benefits like these here. So what are the things you should do? When you first get started, you may be able to get by for a while without healthcare, but it is an expectation, at least in the United States. If you're in Canada, oh my God, that'd be amazing. But you're already paying a lot more in taxes. We had a situation at the very beginning where everybody had healthcare because they had it through their spouse or some other way, or they weren't looking for it. And so we didn't use it. It's definitely a big expense. You're talking about anywhere from $400 to $1,000 per individual per month because of their age. So if they're right out of grad school, they're going to be lower. If I'm 52, I'm paying $800 a month for myself for our healthcare plan. Probably want to think about dental and vision. Anyway, those are the sorts of things. We actually, for a while, had a QSARA program, Qualified Small Employer Health Reimbursement Account, where basically we reimburse them for their expenses. And that was pretty well liked at first, but I think at the end of the day, it actually cost us the ability to hire one staff member, and we did have another person leave, and they quoted healthcare for one of the reasons they were leaving. Retirement. I use a simple IRA. That's basically where I give a match. I'm going to give 2% to you no matter what you contribute. If you contribute at least 1%, you get 3%. And that's the way simple IRA is set up. Most people are pretty happy with that. You can probably invest more. And I would love to get Gomani in a corner and ask her about this, because she talks at length about 401k plans and why it makes sense. I love this perspective. She talks about, is she here? Okay. Anyway, I'm saying nothing but nice things. She talks a lot about the 401ks and how she wants to make all of her staff members millionaires. And I love that perspective. We're not there. There's a lot of different things out there, and I only listed a couple here between the simple IRA, a SEP IRA, 401k, company retirement. It's enough to make your head spin. It is, at least, it's more than a whole session of one of these, but it's something to look at. I gave a quote, I'm sorry, a link here if you want to take a look at it. There's so many more additional fringe options you can put out there. Disability, these are things we don't have. Disability insurance, life insurance, short-term, long-term disability. These are things that people like, they often want. And with all of these, you can actually create a shared plan where you share the costs with your employee. I try and just cover it. Or you can provide it for additional insurance for them if they want it. Like you can create an opportunity for disability and not pay for it. And additionally, obviously, you and the insurance companies want this too. Your staff and their employees will want to cover their children or their spouse, and this gives them an option to do that. I don't cover spouses and children. I know there are situations where there are employers who do that. It's becoming, at least from my perspective and for what I've seen, few and far between where family is covered anymore. It becomes an expense to the employee. All right, professional development. Probably the reason why we're all here, because this is your PD session for the week. We're kind of hanging out with your AEA friends. You want to be thinking about associations and conferences and travel. This expense can get high if you're not paying attention to it. You can't just say yes to everything. So I definitely think you should create a travel policy, understand how expenses are made. You know, what is allowable, what's not allowable. I focus on AEA because it just makes the most sense for us, but it's not the main association for all of my staff. Let's see, I created an annual amount that I promised to the new when I'm interviewing people. It's $1,000, and then I always exceed it. But you know, if we have a tough year, I still think we should be able to meet $1,000 minimum per staff member. Books, presenters, or other ways to do professional development, gatherings of different variety. We have an internal book study club where we're reading Kylie Hutchinson's Failures book from 2019. It's fantastic. We're having a great time with it. Last year, we read Bev and what is it? I'm forgetting the name of it, but it was Evaluation Time. Gail Barrington's new textbook on basically all things you should know about program evaluation. And that was a wonderful experience for us. Such about a cool and tangible benefit. It cost us about $90 per book, and that those costs added up, but it was worth it. We definitely got a lot out of it, and immediately people were saying, I'm putting this directly into my work. So I was happy to hear that. Computers and software. Computer, don't go cheap on computers. It's going to come back to bite you in the long run. Computers are kind of the main tool we have to do our work, right? So I buy new, I invest extra money in here. I can tell you whenever I've bought like a $600 computer, I've had to replace it in 2 years. When I buy a $2,000 computer, it seems to last forever. And I know there, I mean, it gets confusing when you're talking about RAM and all these things. Frankly, just look at what people really want that has all the RAM, it has all the processing power, and that's what you need to do, because a lot of us are doing, we're containing a lot of files. We need to do a lot of networking with regards to Zoom. This doesn't work very well on a cheap computer. Peripherals, that means like your monitors and your cameras and things like that. I do generally buy brand new cameras. Monitors, I buy secondhand. I have a beautiful setup right now. Looks brand new still, and it's a couple years old. But I bought it from a lawyer who decided to move out of his office and work from home, and he had all this extra stuff. So I think I wrote somewhere in here that, oh, it's in the furniture piece, that Facebook Marketplace is your best friend. Definitely wonderful, very inexpensive stuff. I don't buy brand new peripherals, software and other things along those lines. Different types of subscriptions is what you're looking at here. Be careful about the death by 1,000 monthly subscriptions idea. There's always another thing that it's just $12 a month. Well, $12 a month adds up. And I've got more than I like. I'm a pretty chill guy, I think. I'm pretty friendly. But if you bring up software and monthly subscriptions, I generally change my attitude, and I usually get kind of frustrated and upset fairly quickly because there's just so many of them. So we try and monitor it. We try and keep a track of it, but there's a lot. It's just $5 a month. Nope, it's not. Here's the big expense, the big hidden expense that you just never think is going to happen, but it's out there. Supervision. It takes a lot of time to bring somebody up to speed to work with you. Employee supervision. My general rule is you find smart people, you put them in a place to be successful, and then you get out of their way. And that's a phrase I use a lot around the office. But it's not as simple as that, really. I mean, you can't micromanage your staff. You basically have to trust them, and you've got to support them when they make mistakes, because they're going to. And if you think they're not going to, then you're fooling yourself. You're a coach and you're a mentor, but this takes time. This takes a lot of time. You're talking about human development here, and so there's a lot to think about with that. And again, we could talk all day about employee supervision. There's books and books and books about management and leadership and how to do these things. Ann Price loves to talk about handbooks or employee handbooks. You need to have one, because you need to create some sort of internal control of what's going on. This takes time to put this together. This is expense. This kind of helps outline the things that people should and shouldn't be doing, but don't overdo it. When we first developed it, I had a staff member who was helping me with it. She had a master's in public administration like I do, and she just went through and she had everything. We had more policies than I knew what to do with, and I just threw half of them out because I'm like, I don't know if this is an issue. And I use the orbiting the giant hairball philosophy, which is basically like if you go into the middle of every time an organization creates a new policy or a memo or makes a decision, consider that a hair, and those hairs all come together and they just grow and grow until they're like the size of the earth and they have mass. And now you can't get anything done because you're spending all your time thinking about policies and procedures and handbooks. So what you end up having to do is orbit around it and just think about the process of mass and orbits. But anyway, that's the book. The point is don't overdo it, because you're just going to find yourself overwhelmed by things that may or may not make any sense for who you are and what you're trying to do. And this is part of the reason why we got away from working for large organizations or universities and we created our own business. Don't create the situation you were trying to get away from. Team meetings, that's supervision and time that you need to think about. We have a regular time every week. We meet every Tuesday at noon. We're all meet by Zoom, even when we're all in the same office. It's easier because a lot of people don't work from the office every day. So we'll all be on Zoom. And we do first meeting of the month is just an administrative meeting, whatever people need to know about what's going on. We have book club, we have lunches, but generally there's always something going on the first Tuesday at noon for our meetings. Here's some more indirect administration costs. There's an unbelievable amount of time spent on HR, payroll, all the other things that come along with all those things. So much so that when we get to the point of growth, I'm going to hire a person to be in charge. He'll be like a director of administration or something, because that's what you're going to do more and more and more of as you bring on staff. This is pretty much your job. Contract organization and administration. This is a critical piece because you can't completely outsource this down to your staff. Anything that happens that you sign is important. So you need to spend time thinking about developing contracts that are smart. You're going to be doing work with lawyers here. When I say smart, meaning they're protecting your interests, they're thoughtful, and they're promoting them paying you on time. Hi, Becky Guerra. We're going to have a session in March, so we're going to talk about getting paid. But anyway, contract organization and administration is really, really critical, and it takes more time. As you bring on more staff, more and more time is there. Making sure contracts are in place. Why are we working on this project without a contract? Question I ask, I feel like daily. Client facilitation, you can't do it all. You can't show up to every meeting anymore. And that's probably the reason why people don't want to hire staff, because they lose out on the fun of being program evaluators. I got over it in about 2018, and I've been very happy popping in and having staff who know more than I do most of the time. I mean, literally about what I'm supposed to know about. They know more about it than I do. And they do wonderful work with our clients. But I come into the big meetings, or I do quality assurance for reports. And again, I feel like I don't know what I'm talking about anymore, because they're really into it. They're experts in this field. And I'm very lucky to be surrounded by great people. I know I'm going fast today. There's a lot to talk about, and there's a lot I've thought about. Indirect costs around facilities. You've got office space. Office space is a big cost that probably I should have put on earlier, but this is the sort of thing that you need to think about. Where are your folks going to work? Can't work out of your home anymore. I had this situation where Tom first came to work for me before he was full-time. He came over the summer, and we were working out of my house, and we set up an office where there was 2 desks. But there was a point in time where I had to go meet somebody, and he needed to go work, and he didn't have a place to go because wasn't really comfortable him just walking in my front door and going upstairs. So we knew we needed to get an office, and that's when we moved to the building where we are now. There's an entire presentation on office space, so you might want to look that one up. Maintenance. Is it included? This is an extra hidden expense. Is it included with your lease? Or if you own your building, how much does it cost to do that? How frequently are they coming? Do they show up? Because we have people who are supposed to come. I mean, I was told weekly. I think they might come every other week. And I guess that's fine. Who's cleaning your private offices, the offices you're leasing? We got shared space with the rest of the building that they clean, but they don't clean my office. So who's going to vacuum my office? And the answer is me. And frankly, I spend a lot of time cleaning everybody else's offices too. And I help wash dishes and put dishes away. It's things you don't think you're ever going to do. I almost got made up one of those signs yesterday to put up in the kitchen in our shared space that says, "Your mom doesn't work here, do your own dishes." But I'm not sure I'm going to go there. But I definitely had that thought yesterday, because there's always dirty dishes in the sink. Come on, just wash them up and put them away. Anyway, working with folks, that's what it is. Desks, chairs, tables, trash cans, all the little things that you need. Marketplace is your friend. Facebook Marketplace is your friend. You don't need to spend a lot of money on this stuff. I have fantastic $800 chairs that I spent $35 on because I went to another one of these places that was going out of business. And when they opened up, they went and bought all the best brand new stuff, and they're out of business now for whatever reason, or they moved somewhere else. And they have desks and chairs, and we just have the best furniture. And I've spent literally pennies on the dollar for what they originally spent on that stuff, and it's all like brand new. Internet, there's a cost. You know about it. We all need it. Don't skimp on that. You need to make sure you can have FaceTimes and Zooms. What are your other utilities? If you need to pay for electricity, if you need to pay for phone and fax, I don't think so. Who uses a phone anymore? You don't need a phone line anymore. They still ask you if you want it, but I don't know who uses it. I'd be interested in if anybody on this has a working phone for their business, but I don't think so. Remote work, is this an intangible benefit or is this a reimbursable cost? You need to think about that because you might have a staff member who says, hey, you're providing an office to everybody else, but I want to work from home. Are you going to pay for it? I don't know the answer to that. We don't. But I think it's a legitimate case to be made. Should you be reimbursing people's cell phone? We don't do that either. And mostly it's because almost all of our communication happens, well, as we are today, by Zoom. Other intangibles and miscellaneous. Are you providing a flexible work schedule of location? We do, for sure. I want you to work where you want, when you want, with some expectations, and get your job done. I don't care if you want to work at 3 o'clock in the morning. I do have an expectation that you meet with your clients and they pretty much want to work between 8 and 5. So you need to do that too. But if you want to do all, I mean, we all need to find the time that makes the best opportunity for your flow work, right? Where you can just sit down and focus and not be interrupted. So that happens early mornings. I do work a lot of times between 5 and 7 a.m. And I get a lot done then, not interrupted. Again, location, are you going to create an opportunity for people to work at home? Well, these are costs to you because it's more than just an employee. PTO and comp time, these are costs too, because you need to think about when people are not working. We create a humane approach, but we set limits. If you work 60 hours this week, you deserve some extra time off next week. I completely agree with that. I don't give you unlimited comp time. Your comp time ends at the end of December. And if you want comp time for next January, which happens, you'll probably work harder this next year. So that's fine. Just apply it towards the next comp time. Of course, we use Toggle Track for our timekeeping, whole session on timekeeping. Group lunches cost money. We used to do it weekly, and I don't think we were getting the benefit out of it. So now we just do it monthly, and I think it's going to be great. We create it around, wait for it, birthdays, or we just do it because if we don't have a birthday in a month, then we'll do a paid for lunch. Are you doing Christmas and birthday presents? It's probably a good idea. I think it reinforces kind of the fact that you care and love for your staff. Shared and private offices. I wish I could give everybody a private office. We're in an old building. This space I'm in right now is like 25 feet by 12 feet. I could put 3 or 4 people in this office space if they could subdivide it, but it's not set up that way. It's just an old building. So we have a lot of shared spaces. Doesn't really work for all Zoom meetings. So you may want to think about paying for an extra room where people can go and have privacy for whatever reason. Perhaps it's because they want to be on an IC topic chat. Firm logoed items, one of my favorites. We redid our name and we were Goshen Education Consulting and we became Goshen Consulting to be more inclusive of all the things that weren't necessarily education or school-based. And we accentuated our logo and everybody loves it. I see people wearing their logoed items all the time. It costs money, but it's a lot of fun. So we have pens and hats, and I'm wearing my vest today. And frankly, we went to a local shop and said, here are, they gave us like a catalog to go through. And I just said, pick out what you want. We'll put the logo on there. And I said, I gave a budget. It was like 100. I said, but if you go over, not a big deal. I mean, I don't want you spending 150 or 200 bucks. Keep some costs in mind here. And it was interesting to see what people got. I got actually the same like quarter zip shirt like this one here as Tom, and his is so cool. Mine is just kind of chintzy looking. I'm like, I should have bought the one you got. I don't tell people what they want to wear. We don't need to look exactly like twins, but we all wear the logo and it looks good. So back to the first slide. How much revenue should I have before I hire an employee? I think you can understand why you need to have perhaps this amount, 142,000, which was the median when I did the calculation of revenue to employees. Anyhow, let's see. Here's our sessions coming up. I see Molly's got her hand up, so we'll go to her as soon as we break. Stop the recording. Next week is the subcontracting fair. I'm going to give that link in the chat as soon as I'm done talking. We're going to do another core topic on marketing. This is the annual session. We're going to do another firm session. We're just all over the place. Firm session. We're going to do key elements to leap into a firm. And I think I might be giving this away, but I might be doing it at Ann Price's house. What? That would be crazy. I hope she'll give me space for it anyway. Because I'll be at her house on leap year. And then Nathan and Lily are going to talk about submitting conference proposals for the AEA conference. And then Becky Garrow and I will be doing a session on March 14th about getting paid, which is so important. It makes the world go round, doesn't it? Okay. Thanks, everybody. If you're here live, don't go away. If you're on YouTube, I will see you guys next time.